Alright, tonight's lesson is lesson 41, and we are adding and subtracting fractions with common denominators. So the first thing I've written down is, telling us what is a common denominator. And fractions with the same denominator are said to have common denominators. So I wrote an example here. I have 1/8 and 3/8. Though these are both different fractions, they have the same denominator, 8, and so these fractions have common denominators, so we are able to add and subtract them. Okay, so we have our very first example, and I have 2/4 plus 1/4, and then I need my answer there. So I drew a circle, and I divided these into fourths. So this is 1/4, and this is 1/4, and this is 1/4, and this is 1/4. So what I'm doing now is I need to add 2/4. So I need to add, here's 1/4, and here's another fourth, and I need to add it to 1/4. So then I add one more fourth. And when I do that, I have 1, 2, 3 out of how many? 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 4. So I wrote kind of, some directions to the side, and it said, number 1, add your numerators. So an easy way to do it without actually having to draw a picture is look at your numerators, 2 and 1. So add your numerators, 2 plus 1 is 3. Leave denominators unchanged. So I left my 4 as a 4. Now I do not add 4 plus 4 is 8 and then get 3/8. That would be a completely different answer. I'm just adding this is the same fraction. They're all the same fractions. They're out of 4, and I'm just adding little pieces. So I'm adding 2/4 and 1/4, and I get 3/4. And this is kind of the same way that you do it with subtraction. So I'm not going to draw a picture here, but I have 7/10 minus 4/10. So I have some directions, and it says number 1, subtract numerators. Okay, so 7 minus 4, and I get 3. Leave denominators unchanged. So I don't take 10 minus 10 and write 3 over 0. I leave them unchanged. So my answer is 3/10. So when you add and when you subtract, you're only changing the top number. You're only changing how many you have. You're not changing the bottom number, how many you're out of. All right, and so here's our next example. Ben mixed 1 and 1/4 cups of juice with 1 and 2/4 cups of water. What was the total amount of liquid that he had? Okay, so now we are doing some more adding, and my problem looks like this. 1 and 1/4 plus 1 and 2/4. If I were to draw a picture over here of 1 and 1/4, okay, so I would have two circles. We have one whole circle, and then we're going to cut this circle into fourths. We just have 1/4 of it. If we came to this circle, we have one full circle, and then here we have another circle. Let's cut it into fourths, and we have 1 and 2 pieces of it. Okay, so what I like to do first, I like to add my whole numbers first. So if I'm going to do that, I would have 1, 2 whole circles here, or 2 whole cups, and then I'm going to add my 2 fractions together. I only have pieces, and if you look up at your examples before, remember, you do not change that denominator. You're not changing how many pieces our circles are out of, or our cups. So my denominator is going to be a 4, stays the same. Then I'm going to add my numerators, 1 plus 2, and I get 3. 2 and 3/4 cups. And that was the amount of liquid, so I guess you could write cups. Sometimes it may be easier to draw a picture if that helps you. So then you could take 1, 2 as your whole, and then count 1, 2, 3 pieces. But remember, all you do, keep the denominators the same and just change the numerators. All right, there were 2½ pies. Tom ate 1½ pies. How many pies are left? So I'm going to write my problem, 2½ pies, and he ate. So we're taking away, so we're subtracting 1½ pies. So we want to know what is left. Again, I do like to do my whole numbers first, and if you want to draw a picture underneath, you can. So this would be 2, and then a half. This would be 1, and then a half. So I like to take my whole numbers first. So 2 minus 1. If I take 2 minus 1, I have 1 whole. If I take a half minus a half, well, that equals 0, right? Yes, and that's okay. So I'm not going to put a fraction next to it, because if I have a half of something and I take away a half of something, I have nothing left. So my answer here, how many pies are left? Just 1 whole pie. 1 pie. All right. And our last 2 examples. I want you to pause your video and try these 2 problems by yourself, and then hit play and see if you did them correctly. Alright, so if you follow the directions from the top, we're adding here. So I always leave my denominator the same. We're not changing how many pieces we're out of or keeping that the same. We're just changing the amount of pieces we have. So we have 1, and then we have to add 2 more. So we have 3 tenths. Alright, and same with subtraction. Not changing the amount that we're out of, so we have 4 down here. And then it says we have 3, and then we're going to take 2 of those pieces away. So 3 minus 2 is 1, so we're left with 1/4. Go ahead and draw a star at the top of lesson 41, and I will check that tomorrow. And here is your lesson practice. And you have 5 problems, just like we were doing before. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.